everybody. Welcome to the Roundtable Discussion, the PRC IAPN News Roundtable. Tonight's topic of discussion is going to be on how to set up festivals and what do's and don'ts. We have a tremendous discussion. We have first of all, my co-host, Patricia Reeves.
Hi, everyone.
We have Drew Shadowwolf with us, Reverend Drew Shadowwolf. We have Christy Mann from the Metaphysical Times, and we have our special guest, Starr Ravenhawk.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, now let's get down to the topic of discussion. A lot of times you will see that a lot of us go to festivals, and you'll see various different festivals around the country. And oftentimes in the pagan community, the festival is set up, and some people just don't know how we go about doing this. So I'm hoping for tonight's show that we can discuss some of the ways some of the things you have to do's and don'ts for setting up a festival. So one of the first things I know is licensing. If Starr wants to jump in on this one.
Okay. We start off first with, first deciding on your dates, and your dates have to kind of depend on whether it's a weekend or a day during the week. I would suggest majority of time try to do it on the weekend. Majority of people are off mostly that time. And I know Edward wants to go with licensing. The licensing part for New York City, I'm going to go with from my perspective on New York City. Wow, it's a whole procedure of first you apply. You have to apply before, there's always a deadline. I don't know what it is in each state, but in New York City, the deadline is by December 31st of whatever year it is. You cannot apply if you are doing your event in July, just saying you can't apply for it in May or whatever. It has to be the ending of their year from the year before. So by December, what's the last day in December, the 31st or whatever?
31st, yeah.
Yeah, you have to make sure you apply for it way before that. Too early is not good and too late is not good. That's their specifics. I don't know why. But anyway, so once you apply for it, then after that, the whole licensing of going through the board approvals with the different community boards in New York City. I don't know if they have the same thing in other states or other cities. But yeah, we have to go through different approvals of whether the community board in the area if they want you there or not. And they could decide they're not going to want you there, like how they did for us for 8 years. And we had to fight them each time and the city overruling them. And then we after the going through the board for approval, whether they say yes or no, then we still have to go through whether we get a sound permit if we have musicians, or if we having vendors. There's another set of permit for them being their vendors who are selling items and things like that. We need I think I mentioned the sound permit already, right? For the live performers and things like that. And that we have to pay the police department for. I don't know what do you guys do, Edward, with that part?
In Pennsylvania, it depends on the city, actually. Each of our individual cities, because we live in a commonwealth in Pennsylvania, each individual cities have their own ordinances for sound. Some cities have an 11:30 sound cutoff. Other cities have a 10 o'clock. Other cities have a 9 o'clock. You have to get, as you said, for music, you have to have a sound permit, but you also have to get the musicians have to get permits for performance.
Oh, once I get the permit for for our events, it covers everybody with the sound. The thing is that I have to make sure that I only have 4 hours of sound. So whatever performers, I have to make sure I pick a 4-hour time slot, and that's the only time I have them in. And so it doesn't matter any part of the day. It just my 4 hours that I pick, and that's when they perform.
Wow, that's even stricter than ours. Ours will allow you to go to it. Like if you start the show at 8 o'clock, you can go all the way to 11:30 in some cities.
Oh, I don't know. Well, we go again. I don't know about you guys. We start at 8 o'clock in the morning, where everybody gets there at 8 o'clock in the morning. From 8 to 10, they set up and get ready for the day because ours is a street festival. So where we take up the whole street, cars are not allowed on the block. nothing's allowed except us. So we have our live performers and everything. So to have the permit, and we say on our permit we want to have the street and the sidewalks for us. So outside, like street vendors cannot come on our block because they would try to do that, take advantage of the fact that they know there's a crowd there and try to make their money from us.
Right.
To do
Well,
that, they would have to pay us for a vending space.
well, this is why we have this actual street performer license. We have to have licenses for busking and everything else. You cannot just perform. Musicians have to have separate permits for busking.
Right, right. But that's what I mean. We provide. Well, I don't even have to provide it to them. I just told them they know how we operate. So I kind of set up a schedule, and I tell them they can always go to our website and see our schedule. And I would have the performers lined up, the free workshops and everything that we offer. And it's an all day from 10 o'clock till 5 p.m. And then we start breaking down after that.
Okay. And
Yes.
the other thing you mentioned, other than sound permit, was the other types of licensing involved, which is closing down the streets. You have to work with the police department, the city department, stuff like that.
Yes.
The Parks Department, likewise, in Pennsylvania, if you're working in an amphitheater or an outside amphitheater, that you have to get with the Parks Department. You have to make sure that the parks are permitting the space to be done, and then they have to close it down to certain levels of the public and stuff like that, to where there's accesses. Um, Patsy's asking if we have any information regarding New Orleans. Not at current, because I do not know the state regulations in New Orleans right now.
Give me a second.
Yeah, you can actually, what you do is there's always a what do you call it? Oh, what they call those people? There,
I
you know,
think
I
it's,
forgot the name of it, of the people that deals with each with the community police officer. That's the one you will contact for every city, and they tend to be the ones that help you. They will help guide you. That's who helps me in New York City, and every year he knows me. Like normally the formal position would be that I have to go to the police department, get my sound permit, and and take it with me. They don't do that. They will actually meet me there and go, "Oh, Star, I'll meet you there. I know how you're gonna be. Bring the money there," which they're being very informal with me because they know me. But if they don't know you, you have to formally go to the police department, meet with them formally and everything, and arrange to have the money and the permit from them. I'm lucky that they all know me now, so they will tell me, "We'll just meet you there. Don't worry about it. Bring the money order. You know who to write it out to," and they'll meet me there and take that and hand me the permit right away.
one
So I'm lucky that way.
one of the things is too, when you're going through the permit process and everything else, because there are several layers of that process to go through. I know, first of all, you have to have a plan written up and ready to go for your actual festival. You have to have a time slot plan. You have to know your location, the amount of space you're going to need, a general amount of people that you expect or anticipate because of insurances. Which then you have to get a certain amount of insurance that you must purchase for the city and for yourself. You have liability insurance both for the city and yourself that you must purchase.
Yeah, that
You can't,
you can't have it without it. It's just the law. So
um,
it is. I don't know if you were going to say that part or if you want me to continue saying that other part. When it usually costs around $590, and that covers. It will produce two insurances, one with our temple name and one with the New York City um, name of who they want me to assign it to, and it's always the same. Sapo in New York City. It's called SAPO. So I write the money order out, I mean, the insurance out to them as well as to us. And it comes with that one price and it will cover, and it's usually about, what is it, 1.5 million to 2.5 million. The
yeah,
insurance has to cover.
it's 1.5 million. I believe it's like 1.5 million for the city and 1 million for yourself.
We don't separate it for us anyways. For
Both.
maybe Pennsylvania, it does. It doesn't
Pennsylvania,
get separated. It's all in one.
Pennsylvania, they do separate it. They actually
Right,
require you to have separate insurances. Two
right,
separate insurances.
right. They just want to see their name on it saying that they're the insured.
The reason why it's like that in Pennsylvania is because you're in a Commonwealth state, and a Commonwealth state is about this. They'll get whatever kind of extra money they want to get. I know that about
Right.
Commonwealth at least.
Right,
know.
right. So I see what
on the
you mean
state.
now. Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you do need that. You also need, depending, initially for the last if this is our 11th year. So for the first 8 years, we had people on the block that would give us electricity, so we don't need a generator. New people moved in there and they no longer are there, so we had to bring in a generator. So if you're bringing a generator, you need another permit. Again, I'm lucky. I'm not going to say anything other than I'm lucky. I don't need that other permit. The police
Yeah.
is really the police is really nice with me because they've known me for, I don't know, 20 years or so. So a lot of them, you know, try to help as much as they can, and the same people are always there, so they're the same ones helping me. But formally speaking, you would need all of that separately.
Yes, formally speaking, you definitely need electrical permit to use the electricity, which is an extra cost. We charge
Yes,
my city charges $90 for that.
you're lucky. Oh boy. If they will allow you to jump what you call it, electricity from like the poles on the street right there, the lamp poles. If you do that, you will need to have an insured, licensed electrician, which means costs you a ton of money. And that person, all they're gonna do is literally open the plate. I could do that myself. They will open that little thingy, unscrew it, and plug your thing in. Three,
Yes,
$400,
yes.
literally, to just do that. I
That's
kid you not.
amazing.
I kid you not. So I would not suggest going that route. I would suggest getting a small generator of your own,
Right.
or like what we did initially in the first 8 years, speak to someone on the block, offer them something. That's what we did. We did a trading. We
And
asked them if they wanted to have a vending space in front of their store out front, and they made extra money that way. And in exchange, we got the electricity just plugging in from them. So learn to barter with people. It's a smart way to, if I were you guys, get the
Oh
people
yeah.
involved in the community that want to have their stores with our flyers and stuff, the big posters in their windows, and then we offer them other things in exchange. Just it's the smart. I would be smart about it, because if you don't, it will be them fighting you, and you will definitely not get approved.
right. There's the reason. Well, like in our state, like I said, you have to get you have to charge. They charge you $90 for electricity for your electrical usage. They do have electrical boxes inside the amphitheater areas where you can actually plug in, and they provide the lighting after dark around the amphitheater. I believe Tati mentioned that they have a recreation park that has already a stage set up. That's very similar, like my city in Pittston, Pennsylvania. We actually have an amphitheater already set up where staging areas have everything is good. Wilkes-Barre also has one,
Yeah.
but you want to check on those type of things. Check with your city, find out what they have available for you for the best location and best setups.
Right.
New York City Central Park, I know, has an amphitheater set up.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to do it in. I don't want to do it in any park in New York City.
Right. Well,
I don't.
understandable there, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
expensive. They're very, very expensive. They literally charge, they wanted to charge us because we initially started out to do it in the park in New York City. Anyone, pick anyone. And they wanted $1,000 for every 10 by 10 square foot tent. So
Jesus
that means
Christ.
every vendor that's renting from us the
That's
space
just,
of 10 by 10, we would have to charge them 1,000 and just hand it over to the parks department.
yeah,
So, and we are 501c3. So we were like, absolutely will not be doing that. And we went to the street, which was bigger, more freedom, huge space, because the block is huge and the community is more involved. So it ended up being a better thing for us doing it as a street fair, as opposed to being condensed inside of a park where people have to then come to you. They have to come to us, which is why we have Rob Zombie and other stars passing through our street fair, because
no,
it's part of their street,
right.
you know. So
Well, we
Cool.
had a similar situation. I went to start a festival in Kirby Park in Wilkes-Barre, and I know Andrew knows where that's at.
Oh Jesus Christ. Yeah.
They wanted they wanted for a small amphitheater, 15 by 15 amphitheater, or booth section that they have, covered booth sections they have over there. They wanted $1,500 a piece
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
15 by 15.
That's a stage, right? Already set up, you mean?
No, that's just a bunch of
No,
tables,
no.
bunch of tables on a flat concrete platform with a roof over it.
Yeah, no, we don't even get that, and we don't get a stage. If we ask for a stage, we have to bring in a person to do the stage for us, and that stage will cost us minimum $2,000. We're like, no, it's quite okay. So we spread nice rugs on the floor, and they perform, and that's our, and we tape it off, and that's our stage. Go to the main stage area, people. That's it for us. With the stages and all of that, you got to save the money, because otherwise you'd be spending, your expenses will get, you have to really control your expenses. If you don't, you will find yourself spending more than you're bringing in every time, and you don't want to do that.
Very
So
true.
reach out to the people in the community. Be
Yes.
careful they don't push you to streets that you don't want to be on, or to locations that you don't see beneficial to you.
Right. Always do your homework, folks. Before you even get started, always do your homework. Then have a plan in motion. Put a plan out, because you're going to bring that plan to the board to begin with. The board's going to be looking over that plan. You have to present it to the board. Then the board has to decide whether or not your plan is viable before they even issue your licensing and everything else. The board has to make that determination.
Yeah, we're lucky we don't have anybody telling us about that part.
Yeah.
Do you have to put down how many people you're expecting to attend when you
You
originally
do when
apply?
you apply. Yeah, you do have to kind of do an
Okay.
estimation. I always put like 200. I just kind of say estimation 150 to 200, and I leave it at that. It's not
And
my,
and of course you probably get more than that coming through. So
we've had over 5,000. If I did not,
yeah, there you go, right?
no, listen.
In your estimation of 200 to get 5,000.
No,
Okay.
listen, okay? I have it in my head like this, and the way my head works and the way other people's head works are two different things. So, see, in my head, okay, we put on this really nice event, and we ask you guys to come dressed in costume, because we all love to dress in costume. And we can't help that we picked a great street, because we fought to have that street, and the location is prime, right outside the subway, right outside of everything. The tourist buses pass. We cannot control all those people coming to our event because they enjoy it. How
Right.
could we possibly, control that, or imagine possibly? We can't do that. So the pagan people that we estimate is around 200 the most, and that's I will never change that statement, and that's what I put. And then when the tourist buses and everybody come and they bombard it, and the vendors could only do it, the owners, the vendors are like this, standing in one corner because they can't move because there's no room to move. I'm like, not my fault. People like our event, and the other people come from the community, and they tell them dress up in costume. They love you in costume, and they all come for it. It's not my fault. So
So I guess the reason behind that question is, do you get charged per whatever for the
nope,
people that?
nope. It's a
So
street. That's
What?
why you have to change it from a park to the street. Big difference in what they require of you, and the stringency and the strictness of it. I
Yes,
did not know this. I learned that the first year.
because
I found out.
in a park they limit you to the exact number that you're allowed.
Exactly. They
Which,
limit you in a park, whereas in the street fair, because it's public domain and people can pass on the street, how could you possibly control that?
Can't.
now
Exactly.
here's what leads us to another part of the discussion: security measures and
Yes.
protecting your people that are there. One of the best things I recommend doing is finding a volunteer group of staff members. This volunteer group of staff members act as security personnel. Basically, they go around making sure that everything, that there's no um, not not going to get mugged. Someone's not going to get. Well, in your case, in New York City, I don't know about how bad it is on the street where you.
Nada. We've never had an issue except the Christians. That's
Okay.
it.
Well,
I kid you not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kidding.
that's a
The
blessing.
Christians are it. Every year we have a battle of wars between the Christians and us, and that's it. Everything else, everybody else loves us.
Because
So,
sometimes they recommend actually hiring the police department,
yes.
and
Yes.
that's an extra cost. That's $15 per officer per hour.
15? Oh,
Really?
bloody hell. I wish. In New York, it's minimum 150 per officer. No, no, no.
Oh, wow.
No. We get volunteer officers who like us that has been there for a few times. We've had community members that part of our pagan groups or other pagan groups that say, I would love to come and I could be security for you and all of that. And
Which I was talking about.
we kind of rope them in to come and be like, once you're part of the family, you're the Witchfest family, you guys got to help,
Well, I mean, that's just like there's a convention that I used to go to, and there's a security team that works two different conventions in Ohio, and they volunteer. They're a security team. They have their own uniforms. Like they look very militaristic. They don't carry guns, but they carry pepper spray. They carry handcuffs.
Yeah, we
They
don't
they
need
have
any of that.
they had the correct licensing for it, but they volunteer. They're part of that community, so they
Yeah.
volunteer. That's why that security team's there. It's like, hey, we're already a security team. We're all part of this community anyway. So, and that's where
Yeah.
that kind of came from.
Yeah, we're not that serious. I guess New York is not that serious. Literally speaking, the only ones we've had issues with over the years is the Christians, and we have, because it's a street. Unlike with the park, it's hard to kind of barricade it off. With the street, you have one end and the other end barricaded by the police barriers.
Well, let me ask you one
So
question. Star, let me ask you one question too, from the perspective of EMTs and medical on site.
we don't have any of that on site, but it's all right there. Okay. Again, because of the location that we're in, everything is right by. There's a major hospital. There's the EMT right around the corner. Everything is right there.
Okay, because in some instances, this is for the benefit of anyone throwing them in any circumstances. One thing you want to look into, if you do not have that location like she has, you want to look into EMTs and fire department. Which fire department will volunteer their services for your festival or event? Because there is bound to be someone's going to have a medical issue. It's unavoidable. Okay, so or get into an accident or have an accident of some sort. So you're going to need security. You're going to also need EMTs. This is for generally. Okay, I'm not.
Right. Well, one of the things I would suggest is that in general, my advice to everyone is, because I'll tell you guys, the boards and they try to push us to different locations where didn't have all these different things. So I scouted that street. I know what that street is. It's a major thoroughfare for a lot of people. So when I put 200, I knew it was going to be way, way more than that.
Right.
But I'm just talking about pagans. It's a religious event. So there you go. But scout the location that you're doing for reasons with all of that in mind. Again, keep your expenses down, because every little bit going out will leave you penniless by the time you're done going, crap, we put on this great event and we have no money, and or you might even be in the hole. So scout the location with the intent of all of these things in mind, so we're not giving up that street for life. That street is ours.
Right.
Every year that street is ours, and they expect it. You know what I mean? So look, when you're scouting the location and everything, keep everything in mind with what you're doing.
I can't agree with you more, Star. Like I said, we have to have the location. Scout out your location. Have a solid plan and structure ready. Make sure that you have, if you need them, volunteers, ambulance services, and police department volunteers that are going to be working your festival with you. That's a highly advisable thing to have available, because even though you've got the liability insurance that covers you for $1 million, there's always going to be a chance of some accidental thing occurring.
Yeah.
you've got to be prepared for it.
You just never know. I mean, we've never had it, and it's been 11 years, knock wood, and everything else. We've
Right.
never had an issue, but there might be, you know. So
Yeah.
prepare with all of that in mind, because even when we the city is giving us the permit because it's a street, there's one additional thing that you will not have in a park. Just because they're blocking off that street, they expect you to provide a thoroughfare for the fire department in case if they need to come on the block
Right.
that we are utilizing. So when we provide the plan, that's the only time I have to show them my plan. I have to show my plan where my vendors are and that I've kept 15 feet of space in the middle of the block for the fire department if there isn't such an emergency. So that's my floor plan that I send to the city, and they see it every time with the same emergency path in the middle. And we've never had to utilize it, but it's always have to be provided as part to get to us to get the license that we need to get
So
Again,
do you so do you stick with the same layout every year?
every single time.
Okay.
If
So
it's
once
not
you
broken, I'm not changing it. I'm not
so what
fixing it.
Hey,
so once you get a layout that's been approved and everybody's okay with as far as
Exactly.
don't change it up, keep
Change
it.
it. Don't mess with
Okay.
it in any way, because the minute you do that, they're gonna say, wait a minute, something's wrong here, and they will find something wrong with it. But they will check with their records and see that they've been having this plan, and they'll notice that you stick with your plan each time, and they like that plan. Don't mess with it. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Okay.
Okay,
that's true.
we have to go to break here for a few minutes. So we'll have to take a commercial break. So if you will, Patty.
Yep.
I just walked into this coffee shop. You'll never guess what I found. All the help is deeply engrossed in metaphysical times. You should too. I'm at the Egyptian, 475 Park Avenue in Idaho Falls, Idaho. You get your very own copy for free, and we're open till 10.
Sister Moon, Apothecary and More is a collaboration of local island witches bringing you handcrafted tools for ritual, amazing apothecary, custom vinyl work, merchandise, and so much more. But we are not just an online store. We are a sisterhood, a platform, and a voice for everything that is magical. Join us for our famous Tarot Tuesdays from 11 to 4 Eastern Standard Time for a discounted reading with our amazing in-house intuitive reader and priestess, Wolf Spirit Energy, Beverly Oberlin. You can find us on Facebook at Sister Moon Store or on the web at sistermoon.shop. So fly on over and stop in for a spell.
Okay. We are now back from commercial break. I just want to say I want to thank Metaphysical Times this evening for also being our sponsor and host for this show this evening.
Thanks. Great to be here, guys.
And Metaphysical Times is a new age paper for the 21st century. Become a subscriber and get 8 prints per issue per year for $20. Great newspaper, folks. So get your copies.
Thank you.
Anyway, getting back to our topic of discussion, other than having the plan, once you have the plan in place, and once you've gone through the process of working with the city and actually presenting to the board, the next part of the thing is actually putting on the event itself, planning for ticket sales and stuff like that. What would you, Starr, and recommend the best way of adjusting? Okay, you said you adjust for 200 people on average. Okay, you say for
No, that's on paper.
on paper.
Yes. I admit to nothing more other than it's on paper, but I did not lie.
Okay, right.
I
Well,
did not mislead or lie or anything like that. I told the truth.
But admission to your events is usually free.
Yes, because it's a street. And again, even in a park, it's hard to charge people there or whatever. But we don't charge anyone because we want the vendors and the performers and everyone to have a good time and to come in. So our money is made from the vendor spaces that we rent out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how do you normally estimate your rental on your vendor spaces? This is something that a lot of people ask. Like on some events that I've thrown, we have charged tickets or admission cost. Okay, depending on what event we're doing. Now the admission cost normally will result in being a ticket sale for like $5 a ticket for entry. But for that entry, that $5, we normally throw a raffle at the end of the thing of 50-50. So people end up getting back 50% coming in, and we charge an extra $10 for 5 tickets. So this is how we kind of raise money a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So in some of our events and stuff like that, doing
I'll tell you a secret. I'll tell you guys another little secret that we did. See, we don't charge anything, but we do have 2 magical wells, one on each end of the street. And the magical wells are built really beautiful, and they're like little colorful and everything, and it looks like an actual well with a tiny thing, and you have to make a wish and put money in. And imagine how many people passing through. At the end of the day, we made over $1,000.
That's a great idea.
That's an awesome.
But just having the magical well, and you could give to charity, or you can have towards your other expenses. Magical well.
That is a cool idea. That is really cool.
Brilliant, yeah.
Well, I mean, if it comes to like when you're looking at like your overhead costs and everything,
Yeah.
you know, if all your licensing, let's say, and this is just, you know, hypothetical rough estimate, is $850, and you've got 30 or 40 vendors, you know, I'm just talking, you know, this is all hypothetical, and you got 30 or 40 vendors. I guess the question would be, being a 501 or C3, would you charge them to where you make the money back and that's it, or would you charge them to where you're making a profit off of it, even though you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, we are a non-profit. We are not a
Right.
not-for-profit. So we want to make some money because we want to do something with the money. We want to be able to have our own temple in New York. So we want to make a profit, but we don't want to go crazy. We're not here for to become
Right.
rich. It's to make a profit. So in general, everything is to come in for free. When you do it for free, I'm thinking of the vendors. We want as many people coming in there without having to pay to come in, because no matter what you think, it deters people. If someone thinks they have to come into a person's event and they have to pay, it does deter them.
Right.
And then we offer the workshops for free. Even if it's 35 minutes, it's still free workshops, and it's still free live entertainment. That's pagan entertainers coming and performing. And you get access to these amazing vendors. We charge the vendors $135 at first, and then when it gets to a certain date, then it goes up to $160 for the non-food vendors. The food vendors begin at $160 and end at $195.
Okay, that's another thing. In the state of Pennsylvania, food vendors are required to purchase separate licenses that cost $900.
Yeah, they don't do that with us. My license covers the license that I have for the event covers everybody, and they only have to get their health department certification and bring that, which costs them $60. And then every vendor has to have a temporary vendor's license, which just costs them $10. So that's the city that they get that permit from the city. So $10 to non-vendors, to non-food vendors. Food vendors at $60.
Okay.
It may go up, I don't know, but that's the city. So they do that, and I let them know they have to provide me with that certificate saying that they bought that from the city, that permit.
Right.
Once they do that, I put all of that information and I send it up. Everything is done online, and I put it up online with the information, that the date, and they want the date that they got it, when it began of their permit, and when it ended. It's usually for a month. that $60 is for the month, that $10 for the month, so they could do any other event in the city for that $10. It's up to them,
Right.
and not just my event. So there's that. So it covers all of that for them, so they don't have to do anything for $900 or anything like that.
Well,
Um,
like I said, that's one thing I'm going to tell all of our viewers out there is do your homework on that. Make sure that if you're going to have food vendors, that what licenses they require, because the food vendors are going to basically charge you to come in versus you charging them. Some of
Right.
them will, because they have to purchase licenses individually to actually attend the show. We had an ice cream truck, okay, actually have to go, that was doing a festival here in Pennsylvania. And they actually brought the truck in. They had to get a separate license for $900.
That sucks.
The license lasted a month, but the thing about it is, we end up being charged by that truck instead of the truck. So because the truck,
Huh? I'm confused.
we end up being, instead of paying the truck, paying us to have the space to park the truck, we got charged by the truck.
How?
Truck.
Isn't
That
it
wouldn't
your
be
event?
It was our event, but we had to pay for that truck.
Wow. Yeah. See, no, that does not sound like very good business practice to me, because I'm not doing
Yeah,
that. They
I
all,
wouldn't.
I'm paying out all the expenses for you to be there for $60. So you're paying me to be there. No, there's just, even,
Right.
I don't care how much money you have to pay out. You have to pay
So
me to
there's
be
no.
occupy the space that I am on, that I'm renting from the city. You are paying me to occupy that space. That's like living in an apartment building, or in your house, you're renting it from your landlord, but the landlord's paying you to be there. That doesn't bloody make any sense.
So, I mean, the question that I'm wondering is, how much did that truck make at that event on top of y'all paying them the $900
That
to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
there? You
Yeah.
know, that is ridiculous, and that
Yeah.
is very poor
we end
business
up,
practice.
we end up telling
Yeah,
them.
it is very poor business
We end up
practice.
telling them no, but watch out for that. I said we told them no. We told them
Yeah, that does not make any bloody sense at all. I'm sorry, but
because
that does not make any sense.
that was going to be another
Not
expense.
making no money.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody has, you are paying for that venue. Anyone occupying that venue that are renting a space from you, they are renting a space from you. What you charge for your rent is your rent. Let's just put it online, and you're only being there because that vendor then gets placed under that plan that you have. My vendors, the plan that I sent to the city, I put each vendor space has to identify where they are. And if the city sees any vendor that's not on that space and how much they paid, the city wants to know that they paid you. That's
Right.
in New York City.
Right.
And the city asks me how much for each one, and they will see how much each one, and they will have their phone numbers too. So they can verify that they paid that amount of money to be there.
Or they would be removed.
Yeah. And that's how the city charges us, by how many vendors we have, not by how many people, but by how many vendors occupy the space.
Okay, so
Like technically, we are allowed, usually without the pandemic, 60 vendors on the block.
Jesus,
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
a
good.
lot of
That's
vendors.
a lot of
and
vendors.
right, and we usually have that pretty much booked up. And what we do is we allot 3 of those spaces to the stage for the performers, 2 to 3 of those that. There are times that we had to cut it down to 2 spaces because it was so packed with vendors. But during the pandemic, it's been cut down to half. We're not allowed to do more than 30 because they want a tent and then a tent space length in between the next tent. So it's now, instead of 60, we're only allowed right now, until we go back to full scale, we only allow 30 vendors. And that includes, and when we have presenters or performers, that's the only time we offer them a free vending space in exchange for their performance or for their presenting. And that free vending space allow them to sell, and they love it usually because they make a good bit of money.
okay, that was going to lead to, that was actually going to lead to my next question. Other than a comment from Melissa here. Okay, vendors are also responsible for any incidental licenses as well as food sales and such. And
Like what other incidental licenses? I mean, other than the one that they get from the city, that's it. That's
like
the
that.
only license that they get, at least in New York. I'm not going to say for outside of New York, because you would have to do your own individual homework for each city or state or whatever it is.
which
But
will
for New York City, we that permit gives them the right to be able to vend, and the city gives them, the application is this thick. It's like 70 something pages listing other
Jesus
street fairs and
Christ.
events going on in the city throughout that month, if they want to go and vend for that $10 or that $60 if they're a food vendor. So
Oh, because that vending
they know it's
territory.
a big business now to do these events. So the city has decided they'll make the $10, and that's it. The only thing they need, but they cannot be on that block without my license, which covers the event and the venue space. Which is why, Ed, that truck, if it's a food truck, which I've had food trucks come there and they pay me to be there. Otherwise, do not stand anywhere on my block, anywhere on the side. I have the police tell them, move it along. Not
Right.
happening. Not without paying me first.
right.
Okay, so the health department, so a food license for a vending truck or a food vendor, to answer Melissa's question, that health department license is usually not required for the event. That is something that you have to acquire separately
Yeah. And
outside the event, and you have to keep updated with the health department
yes.
as a food vendor. That is
Yes.
not required. You might be required by the health department to have that to be at an event, to vend at
Yes.
an event,
That's $60.
but that isn't required. But that's not something that somebody that's putting on a festival is required to provide for the event,
No,
for the
like
that's the
food
like
vendor.
when that
responsibility of the
license
vendor.
that
Mhm.
license
Yeah, I
number
would think so
that
too.
the food vendors give me from the health department, because when we fill out the application form online, it gives you each place. Like if you have what you call that, what is that thing that with the generator? If you have the generator, it tells you this is where you get the license for your generator. If you have, and usually that's the police department. If you have your a food vendor, it tells you this is where you have to go, which is the Department of Health, to get your license for the event. It tells each of them what they have to do. I have to enforce that. I am not having that vendor be there without giving me their permit for the month, showing that non-vendor showing that they paid their $10 and here's their permit. I then
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I then have the help the food vendor also provides me with that, with their license and their DOH health department license number that they paid $60 for. So yeah.
Right. Melissa does say no events provide space only. Vendors need to be aware of state and county regulations and additional fees.
Right. Like
Oh,
I
absolutely.
let them know this though. On my application form, I let them know that to do my event, because what the city does is they give me all the full applications of my licensing for the venue. They also tell me what is required of all my vendors, whether they're food, whatever it is they are, what they need to provide me in order to get my end up license to have the entire event. So on my application form, it tells them for I oh thanks Melissa. On my application form, when they anybody that's applying, it tells them if you are vending, you must provide your permit when it began and when it ends. That's the law. I have to then upload that information they gave me and put it up. And I tell the city what I charge them and everything else. Everything has to be above board. So I make sure that they know. Do not make sure that if you even if you paid for the space and you do not provide me with that up to a month before the event, that's on you. It's not on me. You're not allowed at the event, and you cannot get your money back. It's non-refundable, non-transferable, nothing. Okay, because I've told people that from the very beginning. It's everywhere. It's all over my applications. It says all the rules. If you don't follow the rules, it's the reason why certain parts of my application is in color, to catch their eyes. This is what you have to do. If you don't do it, it's on you, not on me, because I'm telling you from the get go. And then in the application itself, it says it again redundantly so. So they know they cannot do this event unless they're provided. And the vendors who's been with me, they know that. And they make sure they hold their
Yeah.
butts and go and get it for me and everything, because I'm
That's
like,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I run a tight ship with that. I don't play because I want my event to keep going. If
Okay.
Yeah.
you don't enforce it and let them know that you're totally serious, it's on you. And you could lose the venue that you have did all that work for to get, because you may apply for all of that since this before in December of the year before, but they will not give you the license until you provided every last detail to them. And then you're the last person to get the full license for everything. And you're like, oh, phew, I'm all done. I've got it in my hands.
Um,
So, yeah.
one of the things that I also did with my event is I on my application, right? I also informed my city about cleanup. That we would be responsible for clean up our own messes, making sure that all the trash is in. We provided the trash bins, we provided the proper recycle bins for recycling materials, and we provided a crew to go around and clean up after ourselves. We actually did this as a service to the city because this way the city, recognizing that we would take care of our own trash and everything else, and removal and disposal, right? They would allow us to do more events in the future. Is this something that you guys also practice? Like,
Yes and no. We do not provide anyone with garbages. We do not in garbage bags or anything like that. We do not have a staff that runs around behind everyone and does that. My rules are very simple. Leave it cleaner than the way you found it. Do not leave one speck of dust there. I don't want to see it. I'm very strict about my rules. And I tell them, bring your garbage bags, whatever you have to do, or take it with you. It has nothing to do with me and my event, because I want to see when I leave there, I'm the last person leaving. Do not let me see any garbages, or you're not going to come back next year. It's simple as that. Leave it cleaner than the way you found it. And we've never had a problem. I have had the city, I asked them, do you want us to put the bags somewhere? They said, no, you guys always do such a great job and have the garbage waiting for us to just pick up and go. We're good to go. So this is our 11th year. And like I said, we've never had an issue because there's never anything left. I'm very strict about that.
well, that's good to be strict about. But like I said, if you're planning events now, this is for everybody too. If you're planning events now, clean up after yourself. The city will
Yes.
appreciate it. So,
Yes.
Always.
and
Always.
once you do that, and the city does appreciate it, they'll let you come back and do more
Yes.
because the fact that they recognize that you're actually cleaning everything up.
Yeah.
You're not leaving.
And the community board also is letting them know that they came and they left it cleaner than the way they found it. And they would appreciate, the community area appreciates what you've done. And because I stay behind and I'm the last person leaving, I make sure that nothing is there on the street.
Right. I've been known to do that too. Anything extraneous, I'll go pick it up myself if I have to, put it in a bag.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, no, you're not.
Huh?
I'm sorry. I should just type that in. Okay. Anyway, no, like I said, keep the area cleaner than I leave it. I tell my people, my patrons, even. That's what I provide the trash bags for, is my patrons, not necessarily my vendors. My vendors have to carry them themselves. Okay, have their own trash removal areas with my vendors, but my patrons themselves, right? Ask the vendor if you could use their trash bags, throw it away, whatever. And if you're a patron at an event like this,
And one of the things too, the city, because it's a street fair, they naturally leave extra garbage cans on the block. so that the vendors and everybody can have everything in there, or at least wrapped up nicely to go, just that nothing can be on the street when we leave.
Right. So I'm just saying for the patrons coming in, clean up after yourselves.
Yeah,
Do
don't
be
be a
courteous.
dick.
Be courteous. Clean up after yourselves. You know, we're putting on these events for your benefit. We're putting on
Yeah.
these events to entertain you, to make you happy, to give you something a joyous occasion. So
Right.
do us the same favor.
Right.
Make our occasions enjoyable for us as well.
Yeah.
Don't be ignorant and just leave your trash lying around or something. Ask a vendor if you can use their trash bag to throw it away. They're not gonna say no to you.
Yeah. And another part too is that I don't know about the other cities, but our fee that we pay after, because we pay them a monies before and a monies after the event, and that covers the cost of the cities hiring extra people to come and clean up behind us too. So there's all of that. So the minute that I'm leaving, I see them right away show up the Department of Sanitation, ready to make sure any extra little thing is gone, and I paid for that.
Right.
So yeah, that's part of our fee.
Okay, we're almost to the end of our show here, so I'd like to say do some final closings before we end tonight's show. Thank you for first of all, Starr Ann, thank you for joining us
You're
again.
welcome,
Giving us
actually.
your
Thank you
insight.
for having me.
I want to thank my co-host Patricia Reed for doing a fine job of keeping everything going correctly, and for her input. Much appreciated, Patty. Um, Thank you, Drew, for being here, for your insights and your questions. Christy, thank you for being here.
Sure thing.
Always a pleasure.
And I'd like to say, on behalf of the staff, on behalf of everybody, it was a great show. And I want to thank the Metaphysical Times newspaper for sponsoring the show this evening. Much appreciated for that. It's also sponsored by the PRCUPCC.org, index1.htm. You can find us at our address. PRCUPCC.org is an organization that is for pagans' rights as well as uniting the pagan community and assisting pagan charities. Okay, so on behalf of the